If an amendment passes, is it a one-shot deal? Is there any way that somebody can take it to court, to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and ask for it to be overturned?
You're asking good questions. They're tough, but they're insightful questions. And my answer has to be yes and no, because as I said earlier, the Constitution is the basic law, and it's not to be modified easily. And so once the people vote to put something in the Constitution, it's not easily modified. But what they put in the Constitution has to not offend other parts of the Constitution. So historically, I would say, in other states, I've seen it where, yes, they've voted on an amendment and then it's been challenged because it's contrary to something in the U.S. Constitution or contrary to something in the state Constitution. Very seldom does a challenge like that get made or is successful, because the Constitution is so much the basic fundamental law of the state. And see, Article 1, Section 1 of the Minnesota Constitution says, all inherent political power in the state of Minnesota resides with the people. So when the people vote on a constitutional amendment, that's profound. And so all the rest of us on this side of the contract have to follow their mandate. And so, yes, they can make a challenge, but those challenges are, it's a steep hill to climb. Let me just leave it at that.
Well, it should be, shouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's I said earlier, we tie ourselves to the mast of the Constitution, the basic fundamental law. So, yeah, it should be. That's the way it's supposed to be. We may not agree with what somebody does one way or the other, but, all inherent sovereign power in the state of Minnesota resides with the people, and we are obligated to follow their will.
Why are you going to come to Willmar? To hear a case? What makes the Minnesota Supreme Court decide to leave their safe harbor in St. Paul and come out to Willmar among the masses to talk about a case?
I'm tempted to respond whimsically and said, we ask ourselves that question every day. But no, there is a very good reason why we are coming to Willmar in particular, and various sites in Minnesota in general. I had a major role in this, actually. I came on the Supreme Court in 1994. And the Court of Appeals, I was Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, and we would hold hearings in parts of greater Minnesota. And I would make those visits educational. I would generally go to the schools, and I try to figure out the Supreme Court doesn't do that. And I floated a trial balloon. I did not get as much response from some of my fellow justices on the court I'd like. Some were quite enthusiastic. So we strategized a little bit, and the first place we went was Rochester, the hometown of the then Chief Justice Sandy Keith. Well, it turned out to be an excellent experience. So then we decided that twice a year we would hold a hearing in some part of Minnesota. We go to the law schools regularly, but we'd go to some community, because it's all part of educating the people. I talked about Jefferson, educate the people as to what our role is and how we function. Now, Willmar is special historically because my colleagues said that, well, if we're going outstate, we got to stay in a courthouse. After all, we are a court, and so what we have the state divided up into judicial districts. So we went down to Rochester, we went to up to Virginia, and then we went down to New Ulm, all the time being in a courthouse. Well, we're in the 8th District here. And I said, well, we got to go out to the 8th District. The largest city in the 8th District is Willmar, so we better go to Willmar. But I knew that the courthouse that you had was not sufficient for us to hold a hearing in. And so that was my lever to get us into the school. And so the first time we had a hearing before students in a school setting was the last time we came to Willmar. We went to the old high school, the auditorium, where you have the stage served as the basketball court. And it was fantastic. The students were well behaved. They were just, in fact, we had an overflow crowd there in the back room. It was so good. we have never gone back to a courthouse again. We've always held our hearings as students. So I have a particular affection for Willmar because it allowed us that lever to get into the schools. And now through the rotation we've been doing this since 95, so we're now in 2012. The rotation, we're coming back to Willmar. But Willmar has to understand the key role that they have played in having our court actually be in the school. But, there's going to be a community dinner, and we're going to interact with members of the community. And it's, again, about educating the people about who we are, what the court does, so that they can exercise their sovereign power, as the Constitution says, in a more educated, intelligent way.